Welcome everybody to the World GT Championship Season 10.
Well, after a week off, we are back with the World GT Championship, round number 4, coming to you from the Red Bull Ring in Austria. And what an event this will be. 3 20-minute races coming to you over the next couple of hours. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Smith. I'm joined, as always, on commentary, the returning Peter Mackay for the broadcast here. Peter, it's great to have you back on commentary, and what a round, what a race we've got for you.
Well, it's a pleasure to be back, Paul, and thank you very much to Justin Prince for filling in for me while I was under the knife getting my legs fixed. But that is a whole another story. This is going to be fantastic at one of the most modern circuits in the world now. Although the layout is a more of a classic layout, it has been completely modernised with the cubic dollar of Red Bull. And what a job they've done. The circuit has been extensively used in the real world over the last couple of years in MotoGP and Formula 1. But we're going to go racing in the virtual world tonight. And with 20-minute sprint races, big dive bomb opportunities, turn 1, turn 3. It's going to be a cracker.
It certainly is. It's looking forward to an intense round. So, as we say, it is one of our sprint events. It's the second sprint event of the season with 3 20-minute races. Races 2 and 3, we do have an inverted grid, which is decided by the spinning wheel that we see on the broadcast here today. And, well, the championship, after 3 weeks of the season, well, that will look very much like this. In your pro standings, it is Josh Thompson who leads by just a point over Ross McFarlane. Kei Kashube is in 3rd place with Phil Dennis right there with him. David Baker, our opening race winner in the championship, he is in 5th place with Kenneth Goldbranson in 6th. Jesse Jones, Pete Harrod, Adam Watson and Matt Turnbull round out your top 10. In your Pro-Am standings, Mike Horder and Max Wolf, a new name to the Pro-Am standings. He's up in 2nd place there, with Perry and Field rounding out 3rd and 4th place. Gregory, Ness, Hedgecock, Evans, Draper and Lyons round out your top 10. And in your AM standings, Lee Berridge is at the top of the standings with Mike Blake in 2nd place. Stevens rounds out your top 3 with Archer, Webster, Hamilton, Byram Nella, Roberts and Gladden rounding out the top 10 of your AM standings. And in the team standings, it is the Free Am by Williams and XBS Championship team. They are in 1st place ahead of BS Competition, with Pure Sims Esports 3rd place ahead of RSIG Performance 4th. Pure Sims SimLab are in 5th ahead of Team Mad, with PS plus Craig Setup Shop in 7th place. The top of your Pro-Ams, it is Evo SR who lead that one by 6 points over Boosted Virage, with 3 Spires Motorsport rounding out your Pro-Am standings. And well, here we are, the Red Bull Ring. The old Österreich Ring is a distant memory, but this fantastic venue, it certainly does produce some tremendous racing. Next week we're off to Hockenheim, with Spa is the endurance race. Then we have a week off before Belle Isle, an endurance race around Belle Isle. That's going to be an intriguing round, with Brands Hatch, Motegi, Suzuka, Sebring, and we're rounding off the championship at Monza with some sprint races. But Peter, that is how things stand at the moment. But of course, our series sponsors, thank you very much to 3M for sponsoring this championship. We do have, well, we don't, but they have a deal on at the moment. There are 20% off of their sim gloves, so make sure you visit the link on screen, bit.ly /sim-gloves. You can see that on screen, and you can always visit the 3M website on the link down in the description as well. But Peter, the sim gloves, they're proving very popular, so 3M deciding, well, let's get it available to more people.
Absolutely. Well, you had me at discount. I'm Scottish, remember. You know, it's,
I'm a Yorkshireman.
Well, I was about to say we're a wonderful combination of, we know how to we managed to sniff out a deal for our viewers and listeners, and yeah, though that's exactly what you need, especially in the summertime as well. When you're behind the sim, it gets amazingly sweaty, doesn't it? And you get that good purchase on the wheel, very, very important. But I might get a pair for on my crutches, because that's a problem. Well, my hands are slipping on my crutches, so get a pair of 3M gloves as well. And of course, a lot that we were mentioning before we came on air, the amount of the British Touring Car Championship grid that rely on 3M racewear, not just gloves, but the race suit as well. Really important, obviously, for fire protection, but also keep you cool, keep you calm, and
You speak of fire protection. I actually have a pair of the fireproof race gloves, FIA approved, I will say as well. So I've got a pair of them myself. So
they're cool. They match your Super Aguri shirt.
But this is a Formula 1 Australian Grand Prix shirt from 2014. So that's another story.
It's a similar paint scheme, though. Similar colour scheme is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But let's take it then to this round of the championship. We've got a quarter of the season already underway and in the books. We've seen some tremendous excitement with the sprint rounds, the feature rounds, and last time out at Silverstone in the feature race, that produced some tremendous action. There was never a dull moment in that 1 hour and 45 minutes. Sprint racing around the Red Bull Ring, that's going to be very tricky with a 55-car grid.
It's going to require a lot of respect from the drivers as well, isn't it? And at the front of the championship, it's amazing how many protagonists there are at the top. Usually by this stage you can start to see maybe 2 or 3 favourites, but there's 5 or 6 drivers really that are right in the hunt as well and can't afford to give away any time to their rivals. So it's going to be tough. But that first part of the circuit, that's where the majority of the overtaking manoeuvres are going to come from. Lining them up on the brakes, getting into the slipstream. Typically, could we say, is this a BMW circuit? I say that tentatively, but they've always been good in a straight line, have those BMs.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Well, the time to find out is now, because Phil Dennis is on pole position, sharing the front row of the grid with Josh Thompson, Ross McFarlane and Jack Sedgwick on row number 2. Row 3 with Kate Schube and Matt Turnbull. Row number 4 then, Jesse Jones and Kenneth Branson. And then the first year Pro-Am drivers, Billy Fletcher and Mike Horder, round out row number 5. Row 6 for Adam Watson and Elliot Harper. Row 7 then, Chris Van Der Ness with Tim Perry on that row. Row number 8 then, Aaron Rose and Max Wolf with David Baker and JB Maceda rounding out row number 9. Row 10 then, Christian Rose and Andy Shield with Ashley Finch and Michael Evdoka on row number 11. Row 12 for Alex Neller and Brian Loyens. Row 13 then, it's Ben Gregory and Lars van Rijn with Simon Underhill, Tony Draper on row 14. The pole position in the AMS is going to be Paul Webster and Andy Archer on row number 15 with Matt Woodhouse, Tom Stevens row 16, Ryan Hamilton, Jason Dilworth row 17, row 18 for Adam Hedgecock and Pete Harrod. He'll be disappointed with that down there. Row number 19 then, Bradley Hulse and Adam Gladden with Simon Neller and John Roberts rounding out row number 20. Row 21, Jonathan Walker with Simon Field. Row number 22 is Lewis Archer and Chris Byram. Row 23 for Nicholas Salaputis and Matt Bunn. Row number 24 for Michael Blake and Toby Ward, with row number 25 shared by Nathan Lewis and Elias Sepinen. Now, these are all drivers who have had penalties. So Oscar Cooper, Ashley Sutton as well, Morgan Butler, Ross Nicholson, And then finally, James Whitehouse. All those drivers did have penalties that sees them at the back of the grid. But the drivers are underway, and we're getting ourselves set for the latest round of the World GT Championship, brought to you by 3M. And Peter, this could be carnage, it could be chaos, or it could be really exciting racing on this opening lap.
Maybe all of the above, perhaps. I think so. It's going to be fascinating at the front. Great to see the Lamborghini of Ross McFarlane in there. This is maybe not necessarily a Lamborghini track, but he's going to be in there in the fight.
Two BMWs share the front row, Lamborghini and Ferrari second row, and we are going racing then. Green flag in the air. There's a slow car in the middle towards the back of the pack as we head on down towards turn number 1. Hopefully everybody will make their way through. The leaders, Dennis and Thompson, through with McFarlane and Sedgwick. Then the rest will follow their way through. Big grid here for this round of the championship. We've got one car off, we've got two cars off at the back. And yes, Sutton is one of those caught up in all of that, but we are carrying on green. Simon Neller, one of those off there. We've got more carnage. This is at turn 3. Well, everybody's keeping going. We've got a car off to the right. I think that's Keika Shube, isn't it, that's falling down the order?
Yeah, disaster for Kei Kashube, one of the front runners in this championship in the BMW bank car, the black and white striped machine. And yeah, a lot of work to do for Kai. That's going to really put him on the back foot for the rest of the evening. But the front runners all got away through clean as well. And I think, Paul, relatively speaking, that was, for on Red Bull Ring standard, that was clean.
Ish, absolutely, as we head on through then into these it's a lot of medium and high speed corners here, and so easy to have a mistake. And speaking of mistakes, there's two Porsches around. There's also Andy Archer around in the gravel trap. More cars going off in avoidance. One of the Three Spires racing cars off. There's a number of cars off, but crucially, it's kept clear, and we've not had a track blockage. So that's the criteria in this championship. If you've got a track blockage, we'll get a safety car. None forthcoming so far in this opening part of the race, but in towards turn number 1, it's just action all the way through the grid. But we can tell you, Phil Dennis and Josh Thompson, they're trying to break away from Jack Sedgwick. Matt Turnbull and Sedgwick have moved ahead of Ross McFarlane in all of that opening lap shenanigans. Then it's Adam Watson with David Baker 7th place, Billy Fletcher 8th place with Aaron Rose 9th, and Andy Shield rounded up the top 10. So some movers, big movers in this field, and a number of cars on pit road as well.
Yeah, some real running wounded drivers, unfortunately, so far. We've got Lewis Archer, James Whitehouse, Nathan Lewis, Bradley Hulse, Kevin Gilbranson, Simon Field, Pete Harrod, Mark Woodhouse in there as well, Salaputis, Ash Sutton and Matt Bunn all showing as in the pit. It's a pretty attritional first lap, but it's going to be fascinating at the front there, Paul, because we've got the BMWs, which are usually pretty fast on the straights, but in the corners the Lamborghini is so good in that second part of the circuit. You really need a car that changes direction well and is stable, and that's where the Lambo really comes into its own.
Yeah, it certainly does. We've got side-by-side action here. This is Brian Lyons battling away with one of the Team Mad cars, and I believe is that JB Mercedes? I think it is. Yes, it is. Who's in front of him? So the Sim Stickers car against the Team Mad car as they head across the line once again in towards turn number 1. David Baker up 9 places at the start here in the top 10. So too is Andy Shield. Michael Adoka as well up 9 places. So a number of cars taking advantage of those issues at the start of the race here.
Car going slow here. Unfortunately, it's the number 77 Mercedes of Lars van Rijn for Boosted Motorsport. Seems it's a strange one. Seems like he's lost all power. But unless he's serving a slowdown penalty, perhaps. Possibly so. You can pick them up around here. As he's now duking it out with Elias Seppänen, the recovering Elias Seppänen, who had that penalty at the start, and he's already gained 22 places in this race as Elias. So certainly going well for the young Finn as they're heading through the right-hander at turn number 4.
plunging downhill. It's quite a lot of elevation changes around this track. It does really does favour the topographical nature of this track. Look at that dive down the inside of the Evo SR car, and there's very little that Tom Stevens can do about that.
No, that was an inspired move. Properly, what would the... looking for the correct word. That was opportunist. That's the word. You got to take your chances when you can get them. But the number 60 was a big mistake there for the Evo SR machine.
Dodgy rejoin.
Go on.
Yeah, that was a dodgy rejoin. Fortunately, Kei Koshube didn't end up losing control from that. There was a slight bit of contact between Stevens and Koshube with that rejoin there. That's one of the things you've got to be careful with, Peter, haven't you? You've got to be careful if you do run wide on these corners. You've got to get back onto that track safely.
Yep, check the mirrors, check the relative as well if you can. So, yeah, a little bit of a triggered reaction there. A few cars having to take avoiding action. But what a move there from Elias Sepinen there in the blue and white BMW with the gold wheels, just tucking back up in the inside there and making good progress indeed. But it's Phil Dennis who leads by half a second, and they've caught a little bit of a breakaway. The two leading BMW drivers, Jack Sedgwick, about 2.5 seconds further back from Thompson at the moment as well. So it's definitely a BMW breakaway at the moment, and Phil Denny is a very successful driver in the real world as well, a single-seater driver too, but super quick in the sim as well. Hello to David Van Broek watching as well, Chaz Draycott, hello Chaz, and Anyo Fungus, I don't know if that's his Christian name, but hello Anyo Fungus, and last but not least, Paul, 3M UK are watching.
They're making sure that we're making sure to mention the promo that's currently on, that's for sure.
They're checking that the Scotsman and the Yorkshireman don't turn it into a 40% discount.
Well, we're on board with Ross McFarlane here. We've got a view of the car in front of him, which is Matt Turnbull. Now, he's a compatriot out of the Pure Sims outfit, is Matt. So the two of these do not want to end up tangling with each other. They want to work together and try and get past Jack Sedgwick, who seems to be a little bit of a cork in the bottle here, doesn't he, in that Ferrari. It just does not suit this track at all, and the two Lamborghinis behind it, they're in the slipstream, but they can't make any moves at the moment.
Yeah, the Ferrari 488 GT3, the leading Ferrari, driven by Jack Sedgwick. Not too many of the Ferraris in of course, but the GTE version winning the GTE Pro category and indeed the GTE AM category at the 24 Hours of Le Mans at the weekend as well. So it's amazing actually how long that car has been in service now, Paul. But I do believe there will be a new one coming on stream in a couple of years' time with, now forgive me, I can't remember the nomenclature, it's like the 496 or something.
So this is what happened at the start then, and it was all sorts of chaos and carnage, and the Mercedes with that very long elongated bonnet of it getting on the inside. We've got more replays coming up. This was at turn 3, and this is what happened on the opening lap as well. And I believe that's Jesse Jones looking to the inside. And yeah, the RSR by G Performance cars just getting in together, and then all sorts of chaos happened behind. But crucially, Koshube keeping it out of the way of everyone, not rushing back onto the track. And further replays as well from lap 1 of the race here. And this is what happened to Andy Archer down through this complex. Little tap from behind from the Samortal car. Well, the Samortal car ended up collecting its compatriot as well. So it didn't all work out for them. And yeah, cars flying past, all sorts of chaos and carnage. But crucially, on track, we did stay green and we did stay clear. So this race carried on.
I think that was Mark Woodhouse in the 38 car that just gave a little bit of a helping hand there to Andy Archer. So yeah, just when you're in as tough a melee as that, it's really easy to just make a tiny bit of contact, and it can trigger off a much bigger incident than you might otherwise think. But yeah, very messy at the start there with the 777 boosted car hitting
Simon
Neller. Yeah. Kind of a little bit of a passenger there by the looks of things. And meanwhile, in a battle of the Italians, the two Lamborghinis of Turnbull and McFarlane right behind the Ferrari of Sedgwick here.
Yeah, well, actually, Cedric. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got to the pictures of Cedric there. So Cedric is in third place, and he's holding on to that position for the time being. And well, it's working out really well for that Williams Esports with Inex Racing and BS Competition outfit, because you've got Jack Cedric, Josh Thompson, and Phil Dennis all. Well, as Josh told us in a previous interview, they're teammates, but they're not actually working together, if that makes any sense. They were kind of all privateers and decided to team up together, and it's well, it's working out for them because they're 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Well, here we are, side-by-side pictures. So we've got the battle for third place on the left-hand side. There's Kei Kashube, the recovering Kei Kashube, trying to work his way through. His next target is Ryan Hamilton in that Nomad Sim Racing car. Through the left-hander, downhill, little touch of the brakes, get the weight over the front of the car to get the front end to turn in, and then through they go towards the end of the lap here. It's fast and frenetic here, isn't it, Peter? And there's not actually too many overtaking opportunities around here. It's just that you get a lot of opportunities with the amount of laps you get out of a race around here.
Yeah, I think the key opportunities, I think, are down into turn 1, but particularly turn 3, the heavy stop into turn 3. But the thing is that you need a car that's well trimmed out to be able to set that move up and then kind of hang on for dear life going through the twisty stuff in the second part of the circuit. It's a really, really interesting place, actually. MotoGP have used the track extensively over the last couple of years, particularly when we've been pandemic affected. With a couple of double headers, and the Ducatis, I mean, just amazing in the opening part of the circuit, and then really struggle in the second part with their straight line speed, but not quite as much maneuverability as the Yamahas. It's kind of the same in GT3 racing, where the overall lap times are really close, but the way they make the lap time is different. So yeah. I think certainly for the Lamborghinis of Turnbull and McFarlane, it's really good they've been able to latch onto the back of Sedgwick's Ferrari, and they're kind of getting pulled along at the moment, and I wonder if they'll pounce before the end of the race.
Well, there was Kashube and also Elias Seppänen working their way past Ryan Hamilton. So the two BS competition drivers moving past the Nomad Sim Racing driver up into 24th and 25th. We're on board though with Jack Cedric, the aforementioned driver, in third place, going through turn number 1, and with just under 8 minutes remaining, it's worth pointing out. So your top 3, Phil Dennis, Josh Thompson and Jack Sedgwick, they're the top 3 in your Pro category. Pro-Am, you've got Billy Fletcher in 8th place, really good position for him in these stages of race 1. You've got Christian Rose in 13th, as he is Michael Blake, and that's the 55 car as well of Andy Archer getting together. A little bit of pirouettes in the gravel chap, not exactly the quickest way around the track. But yeah, it's Billy Fletcher is the top Pro-Am in 8th place. Then it's in fact it's Elliot Harper who's in 2nd place now in Pro-Am in 13th, with Christian Rose in 14th place, rounding out the top 3 of your Pro-Ams. And then your Am drivers, it's Ryan Hamilton, who we saw being overtaken by Kei Kashube and Elias Seppänen. Then he's down in 26th place. 32nd place is Tom Stevens, who's the 2nd place Am driver. And then Paul Webster in 35th is your 3rd placed Am driver. So that's where people stand at the moment in this race. And Phil Dennis has pulled away from your race lead of 1.5 seconds, and he's doing a fantastic job. And in fact, he's catching up to some back markers, one of them being Salaputis in that year 1 Mercedes.
Well, this is super important for Phil Dennis to get through the traffic here as well, because if not, Josh Thompson will be right on top of him. But at this level, the World Championship level that Phil Dennis and Josh Thompson are on, to pull away at a circuit like the Red Bull Ring is very, very unusual, quite honestly. So Phil Dennis has done a top job. He's obviously right on the pace tonight. But interesting, if I was him, I'd be in full BMW driver style, just absolutely mashing the headlight flash button at the moment. But no, Salaputis makes a nice, fair move there, lets Dennis go by, and oh dear, oh dear.
Oh on, Nicholas.
Nice guys coming last. That's not fair. He was being so nice.
He's caught the gravel on the exit of turn number 4 there. Don't talk to Sergio Perez or anybody else, or Charles Leclerc, about the gravel there at turn number 4. But yeah, he's just caught that gravel and that sent the car around. Just taps the barrier, but it's such an awkward place to try and recover and get back onto track. But fortunately, there was a big enough gap there for him to return to the track safely.
It's so frustrating there, just trying to get out the way of Phil Dennis there, and yeah, just unfortunate there for Salaputas, but not to worry, they carry on. In fact, in that little exchange, actually, Phil Dennis has pulled another couple of tenths because I think Josh Thompson had to back out of the throttle a little bit to avoid the spinning Salaputas Mercedes, but no such problem now. And this must be tetchy for when you're in the race lead, Paul, to try and get through lap traffic who are all in their own race. And like you mentioned, we've got 3 classes, so it could be a driver that's competing up the top end of the AM class, and they're fully focused on what they're doing. This is not what you need when you're leading a race and trying to control it. But Phil, he's been in this position plenty times before.
Absolutely, and of course he's the driver that's waking up these drivers to the fact that the leaders are coming through. So
the alarm clock,
and he's got Bradley Hulse in front of him in the Year 1 Porsche. There you go. There's the AM driver in the Year 1 car through the chicane sort of here, and you can see how that Porsche, the back end, just doesn't want to cooperate. Dennis has to back out of it because the back end wasn't cooperating. Now he goes down the inside and gets ahead. But Hulse and Simon Field, they're involved in their own battle, as you say, Peter. They don't want to lose time to each other by letting these leaders through, but they do have to facilitate these leaders coming past to a degree.
Yeah, it's quite an art form, isn't it? Because although this isn't a multi-class race, the theory does carry over a little bit, where it's obviously if you're right up the top of the field, getting through the slow traffic is very important. But likewise, if you're the traffic, keeping your pace up and knowing how to be overtaken is very important. And that's a skill that the drivers need to know as well. Still, the Sedgwick cork in the bottle, still very much firmly in the bottle. I guess if it's a Ferrari, it'll be Prosecco, I guess. With 2 Lamborghinis sort of menacing behind in the form of Turnbull and McFarlane. And Ross McFarlane being Scottish, he'll want the cork out the bottle of drink pretty much as soon as possible. I can vouch for that.
I definitely wasn't the one who was going to mention that, by the way. That you're well entitled to make that comment. Andy Shield down the inside into turn number 4. He's gained a position then as we've got Adam Watson. There he is. Adam Watson stuck at the side of the track. He just can't seem to get any luck. And these Porsches, they don't look great around this track either, do they, Peter? The back end not cooperating with them on a few of these corners. Look, we'll see what's happened to Adam. Is it that gravel? I think it is. Yep.
Yeah, that's just. I think regardless of the car you're in, that's all of the cars in this class rear-wheel drive. So it's gonna, it is gonna go round on you if you do that. But yeah, I do agree with you. That's always been a Porsche 911 trait, is it often can be quite bad on the understeer as well. And then when you get the transfer of the weight of the rear engine, 4-litre flat 6 engine right in the back of the car, so it can be a bit of a monster to tame. However, when you do tame it and you know what to get out of it, it can be a fantastic car. I mean, I bet you if you do the kind of micro sectors, the Porsche 911 coming out of the slow corners just boogies, because you've got all that weight sagging over the driven wheels, and it's like it's gripping into the ground and woof, off it goes. But you have to trade off in other areas as well, as we've got a huge ding-dong going on here between. Now, I can't believe I'm saying this is for the outside of the top 20. There's some big names in here. Sepinen and Kashubi.
Yeah, Tim Perry's been involved in the wars as well. You could tell that by the damage to his BMW, but that was some tremendous driving. Plenty of respect shown amongst the 3 of them then when they were going side by side through that last corner with Kashube and Tim Perry. But now Perry's got to look out behind him because, well, one, he's got a teammate of his in that Three Spires Motorsport car and that Lamborghini of Ben Gregory. But there's Tony Draper looking to the inside in that Mercedes. It's not normally an overtaking opportunity into turn 5, and you've got to leave a little bit of space there. And Ben Gregory won't be appreciative of that, but he's going to come back straight away here, Peter. Time is nearly expired here in this race. This has absolutely flown by.
It certainly has, yeah. Fast and furious action. And don't worry, folks, we've got 2 more to go with some reverse grid spinny wheel action as well as... Oh, Gregory, oh, what a move! Gregory around the outside at the final corner and a little bit of a wiggle saying, have that.
He's certainly showing his frustration at the move that Draper made into turn number 5. But we are on the last lap for your race leader. He's just coming through into turn 5 at the moment. You can see him there on the right-hand side of your screen as Gregory trying to pull away now after that battle. And he'll be looking to get one over Tony Draper. That Mercedes, though, got a lot of grunt. That will really pull its way down that back straight towards turn number 4. But Phil Dennis then on the right-hand side of your screen. Just 2 more corners to go for him. And it's going to be another victory for the 3M by Williams Inex BS Racing, the BS competition car. Across the line then for the opening race victory here in the World GT Championship. Josh Thompson second place with Jack Sedgwick hanging on to that 3rd place. Your top placed Pro-Am driver, we can tell you, is Billy Fletcher, who's going to come across in 7th place. We've got more battling going on. This is just outside the top 10, Ashley Finch and Michael Evdurka. And Evdurka's actually going to make the move past Finch. So I think there was a little bit of a organised move there across the line. So, yeah, certainly plenty of action there. There's Gregory and Draper across the line. They'll hold their positions then for 24th and 25th places. And still, there's battling all the way down this field. Paul Webster, well, he is the 3rd placed AM driver across the line. More still side by side, John Roberts and Jesse Jones, who got caught up in that opening instant in turn number 3. He finishes down in 38th, loss of 31 positions there, Peter, for Jesse Jones. He won't be happy with that at all. One driver who will be happy, though, is that man right there, Phil Dennis.
That was a really classy drive from Phil Dennis, I have to say. You know, negotiated the lap traffic well without risk, and to pull away from somebody of Josh Thompson's calibre on a circuit like this where there's so much draft effect, that's mighty impressive. Very, very impressive indeed. And once he broke the draft, he managed that gap so well. So let's see as we go through the rest of the evening how Phil Dennis manages getting through traffic, but clearly he's got that very level head in full engagement tonight.
Absolutely. Well, what we will give you first of all is the spinning wheel to decide which position will have the grid inversion. So Hugo, behind the scenes, Hugo Luis, our
Carol
producer.
Vorderman wasn't available.
Well, we'll get to see what number it is. Will it be 27? No. Will it be 30? Oh, now this could be tasty. If it's 30th place, it is. So it's going to be 30th place as the reverse grid will bring you who will be on pole position once we go through the field and the results from race number 1 of the evening here in the World GT Championship. And that was tremendous, and it is Phil Dennis then who wins this race by 2.3 seconds over Josh Thompson, with his teammates behind as well, and Jack Sedgwick a further 3 and a bit seconds behind. Matt Turnbull then the first of the Lamborghinis in 4th place ahead of Ross McFarlane, with David Baker, well, it's a very familiar position for him, 6th place for David, with Billy Fletcher the top of the Pro-Am drivers for that Luxim 24 eSports car in 7th place. Andy Shield, Aaron Rose and Michael Evdurka round out the top 10. 11th place for Ashley Finch, with Elliot Harper the 2nd place of your Pro-Am drivers, and Christian Rose the 3rd place of your Pro-Am drivers in this race. Mike Order, Adam Watson, JB Masida, Max Wolf, Simon Underhill, Brian Loynes and Alex Neller round out the top 20. Keik Shube and Elias Sepinen then, recovery drives for them in 21st and 22nd place. They'll be well positioned for the second race of the evening. Tim Perry, the best of races for him, down in 23rd ahead of his teammate Benjamin Gregory, and Tony Draper in 25th. Ryan Hamilton is the top AM driver in the field in 26th at the end there for Nomad Sim Racing, and a very, very good starting position for the second race as well for Ryan, so could be onto some really good points here this week. Adam Hedgecock 27th ahead of Oscar Kopa, and then the front row of race number 2 is going to be Lars Van Rijn in 2nd place, and Morgan Butler, man who was on the naughty step for race 1, starts on pole position. Then 31st, all these rest of these drivers will start where they finished. So Ross Nicholson and Jonathan Walker 31st and 32nd. Tom Stevens then the 2nd placed AM driver in 33rd, with Paul Webster rounding out that AM podium in 34th. Adam Gladden, John Roberts, Jesse Jones, who will be mightily disappointed with that result, in 37th. Simon Neller, Chris Byram and Andy Archer. We're not done yet, folks. We've still got more. Toby Ward then 41st with James Whitehouse. Nathan Lewis, another one of the drivers, will be really disappointed with his race here today. Got caught up in the instance on the first lap. Jason Dilworth, Matt Woodhouse, Pete Harrod, who was trying to work his way through and got caught up in incidents as well, as did Kenneth Goldbranson. Lewis Archer, Bradley Hulse and Simon Field round out your 50. Then the final 5 cars on the grid. Nicholas Salaputis, who we saw have that spin after being very kind to your leaders. And then 4 drivers did not finish. Michael Blake, Chris Van Der Ness, Ashley Sutton and Matt Bunn. So that is the opening race of the evening. We've got 2 more races to come up here. Peter, though, 30th position, just over halfway through the grid. That is going to be a big change, and we could see plenty of action at the start of this second race.
Well, yeah, I think it could be a bit of a pile-up, but there were, a lot of drivers who benefited from it, and a lot who didn't, of course. And I think that'll be in the minds of the drivers as they're coming through the opening laps as well. And well, will we see Ash Sutton come from the very back of the pack? Of course, he was starting more or less at the back of the pack to begin with. So will we see that again? We know that he loves racing on the sim. He says it's good practice, apparently, for his overtaking the British Touring Car Championship, which, as we know, is pretty legendary as it comes. So it's going to be a cracker, that's for sure. And I'm intrigued to see who between Phil Dennis and Josh Thompson makes their way through the pack, because clearly they're very close on lap time, but the journey through the pack is a rocky one. So we'll see how far each of them get, because they need those championship points.
Well, and that's the point that you make there. They need the championship points. They've got to be clever with how they work their way through that field. You can't get yourself involved in an incident, because if you do end up having an accident that you're deemed to be at fault with, well, you end up losing a ton of positions. So it can work out to be quite detrimental. So you've got to be so careful in working your way through the field as well. But it gives tremendous opportunities to those drivers who maybe don't have the 1 lap pace to be able to start near the front. And I'm thinking, Pro-Am and AM drivers, gives them an opportunity to get themselves some really big points here.
It does, and that's the thing with it. The points are awarded the same. So if you get a really good finish overall as an AM, you just get a big Brucey bonus. So that's what they'll be looking for. And we've had a few examples. I mean, Max Wolf had a few of those early in the season, and he's up to Pro-Am and is competitive in Pro-Am as well. Yep. And so he's in the class he should be. Now, we've got a few messages coming through, some from the drivers, some from viewers. I can see you looking at them as well. Now, so Bradley Hull says, that was daft, so much crashing in lap 1. I'm 19 places out because of lap 1. You might not be alone there, Bradley. Porsche Sport says, great to have Paul Smith and Peter Mackay on comms. Well, I'm afraid you're stuck with us if not. It says,
there's no bias there, by the way, Peter, at all, is there?
Yeah, well, this is here. You can't beat a freebie, Paul, you know. And I love David Baker says, call me Jarno Trulli on that one. Was he wearing a bandana at the time?
Well, I'll tell you what.
He decided to buy a Gen 1 Formula E car.
Well, if he's Jarno Trulli, then he needs to start his own vineyard then, doesn't he, does David? And,
is that what Jarno Trulli does nowadays?
Yeah, he's got a vineyard, yes, absolutely.
Have you sampled his gear?
No, because I don't drink, so...
oh, dear.
A Yorkshireman that doesn't drink, you know, who would have thought? But, yeah, it's worth pointing... So, Bradley Hulse mentioned about how he lost a ton of positions because of incidents that happened on lap 1. When you've got a field this big, when they're competitively relatively close on lap time as well, it's so difficult to navigate that opening lap when you're in such a big pack, and you've got to almost have eyes in the back of your head at the start of a race, don't you?
Well, it's funny, there's a series I commentate on for the Porsche Club UK, their sim racing championship, and the winner of the first two seasons, Ryan Parkins, there was always drivers that could match him on pace in race 1, which was on the qualifying order, but where he really won his championships was in race 2, and the way he did it was, you would think he's asleep the first 3 or 4 laps. You think, what's he doing? You think he's going so slowly, this is odd, but he was just letting the sea part in front of him.
Yeah.
And then he would switch it on and come through, and that was the secret to his championship. And I suspect that we've got obviously a very long season here in the World GT Championship, some endurance races as well, of course, but in those when we're using a reverse grid, I believe that it's not going to be who wins the race 1 on qualifying order. It's going to be who gets the most points in the race 2 and race 3. I think that's going to be the secret where where they get the big wins and the big losses, I believe.
Yeah, it's quite a knack to be able to work that lap 1 and lap 2 traffic. You know, I used to race in touring car racing where it was big grid touring cars. Half the time it was just a case of keeping your wits about you, avoiding accidents, and then you'd all of a sudden, I'm up 20 positions here. It's a cracking start for me, but you've not actually made an overtaking manoeuvre in all of that time. It's a real knack to work in pack racing like this when it's so even as well.
Do you know what I love, Paul, is that obviously we do a bit of mucking about on the sim, and actually with my broken leg I'm really missing the sim racing actually big time, but we're obviously much better at the seat we're in at the moment, I think, and we're both comfortable with that fact, and we both sit here with this amazing oracle of knowledge and advice and wisdom, but you know what it's like. As soon as you get behind the wheel you think, I'm gonna have him, come on, let me at him, oh, I'm in the gravel, oh dear. But it's trying to tame that instinct, isn't it?
I will say that the years of experience, shall we say, that's a way of me saying that I'm of the older age range of sim racing now, it appears. You know, you learn to calm down and go, do you know what, that fight's not worth fighting. If you're that desperate, and this is the thing, this is what comes with experience, is racecraft. Learning to identify when somebody is wild and desperate to make their way past. 9 times out of 10, yeah, wave them past, let them go through, because they're about to have an accident 2 laps later. So, it's something that you learn through experience, and we have to say that that there is a lot of inexperience, because there's been a lot of people come to sim racing in recent years, hasn't there? So it's learning that experience, repetition, and looking back at what you've done as well. Looking back at instance, even if you think you weren't at fault, see what you could have done differently, identify what you could have done, and then take that into your next races, and you just learn so much from the mistakes of others.
I think we need to get you your own television show, Paul, on like Motors TV at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, being like, this is sage advice with Uncle Paul with his flat cap. He's going to say, you know what it is? You just need to take your time, lads. You just need to take your time. If
it's Motors TV, you'll need a time machine to get back to them. But we have got the second race. You can see up in the clock, just up in the corner there. We've got about 2.5 minutes of the warm-up session before race number 2 of the evening here. So let's look forward then, Peter, to race number 2. We've already mentioned about those drivers, Dennis and Thompson, starting 29th and 30th places. They've got to work their way through this grid. But it's those drivers that were that had the issues in race 1 that we've really got to keep an eye on to see how they progress through the back half of the grid.
So that, yeah, Elias Sepinen and Kai Kashubi would be the two that we need to really look out for, don't we? I mean, particularly Kai Kashubi, when he gets into his groove, he's just metronomically fast as well, just bangs in those quick lap times. So if he gets through the first couple of corners clean, I think Kai Kashubi could be a pick for this one. Of course, I can't believe we've gone 40 minutes of the broadcast and not mentioned that he's a powerboat racer.
Yeah. And
that Ash Sutton's a 2-time British touring car champion. Let's just get them all in at once.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we did mention that Phil Dennis is a very competent real-world racer as well.
Yeah,
so we have had that one. Tick that off of your bingo card for RaceSpotTV.
Paul with some wise words. We need to get World GT bingo cards made up.
Well, I can tell you, 2.5 minutes have already gone down to 1.5 minutes. Looking at the warm-up times, everybody's just trying to get their eye in here. Track conditions, for those of you wondering, the track time is at almost 10 past 12 in the afternoon, so we're right around noon. And look at that track temperature. Yes, it's only a short race, 20 minutes, but these drivers really set up their cars aggressively to use up those tyres in a 20-minute race like this.
And when they're at the beginning of the race, it was on coldish tyres with a greasy circuit, that excessively high track temperature makes the surface greasy. It makes it difficult for the tyre to really get the proper grip on the tarmac. So that I hate to say it, that could catch out a lot of drivers on opening lap, because that is looking at the track temperature is something that the top guys will look at, but not necessarily the guys at the back of the grid. It might not just be that level of detail they're going to.
But this is where the benefit of this 10-minute warm-up session comes in, doesn't it? It gives you that opportunity just to get 1 or 2 laps underneath your belt, just to feel how the conditions are before you start the race. It's crucial.
It is, yeah, I absolutely 100% agree that just getting out there and turning laps. I mean, I have to be honest, in any time I've been racing, I would use this to go to the toilet, but there's a lot of drivers that are using the track time wisely, as they should.
Absolutely. Well, we are heading towards the start of race number 2 of the evening, and so we will be able to bring you your starting grid momentarily here. But I can tell you that the front row of the grid then, it is Morgan Butler and Lars van Rijn who share that front row, with Oscar Koper and Adam Hedgecock on row number 2. Row number 3, it is Ryan Hamilton. What a position for the AM driver, and Tony Draper. Row number 4 then for Ben Gregory and Tim Perry. Row 5, those are 2 drivers we want to keep an eye on, Elias Sepinen and Kei Kashubi. Row 6 for Alex Nella and Brian Loynes. Next row of the grid is Simon Underhill and Max Wolf, with JB Masida and Adam Watson. Mike Horder and Christian Rose round out row number 19. Row 20, Elliot Harper and Ashley Finch, with Michael Avdoka and Aaron Rose, row number 11. Row 12, Andy Shield and Billy Fletcher. Row 13, David Baker and Ross McFarlane, with Matt Turnbull, Jack Sedgwick. And row number 15 then for Josh Thompson, the race 1 winner, Phil Dennis. And the drivers start where they finish, so Nicholson, Walker, Stevens, Webster, Gladden and Roberts down to 36, with Jesse Jones, Simon Nella, Chris Byram, Andy Archer, Toby Ward and James Whitehouse. Lewis, Dilworth, Woodhouse, Harrod, Gulbranson and Archer. Before then, Hulse and Field, row number 25, with Salaputis, Michael Blake, Chris Van Der Ness, Ashley Sutton. And then your final one on the grid, Matt Bunn. There we go, we'll make it through the grid. Drivers driving away for the start of this one behind the Porsche 911 race car. Well, pace car, should I say. But this is where these drivers now who start at the front have got a great opportunity to get some big points here. Morgan Butler then to round the final corner, and he's going to get on the power early. He's going away at the front. The green flag is waving and we're underway. Oscar Koper side by side for second place with Lars van Rijn. Koper could be a good shout for a race win here in towards turn number 1. Now, are we going to get through cleanly? We didn't last race. Can we do it this race? Down towards turn number 3. Turn number 2 is just this little sweeping left-hander. That Mercedes, so much grunt down the straight there into turn 3. This is the pinch point where we could see a few incidents, and Cooper does make it ahead of that Mercedes of Lars van Rijn. How is the field going through turn number 3? So far, so good. This is a good start. This is good to see here in the opening of race number 2. Down towards turn number 4 now. And it is still Butler with Cooper, Van Rijn, Hedgecock, Draper, Hamilton, Perry, Kashube, Seppinen and Ben Gregory rounded out the top 10 as we're heading through turn 5. I don't want to... in fact, I'm not going to say it, Peter, but so far, good goings in this race.
Yeah, very, very good. All things considered there from the drivers, the leading sort of 20 or so, getting through both the pitfalls of turn 1 and turn 3, and trust me, they are proper pitfalls. Right up there with the opening chicane at Monza, actually, with levels of peril. Well, all the drivers getting through pretty clean as well, which is nice to see. So, tell you what, super start from Morgan Butler, wasted no time, caught the field behind him napping a little bit, and opened up the torque of the BMW and just burst into an early lead and managed to get the first couple of corners clean. And that is going to be critical as well for the 33 of Morgan Butler as well. Now, our winners from our winner from race 1. Where
3 wide.
Okay.
Okay, Kashube. Oh, look at this. 3 wide through. Turn number 3. This is sensational. The Mercedes and the Lamborghini switch positions as well as we're heading down towards turn 4. Now, please all behave. Let's not have an accident down here. Seppinen is trying to follow his teammate through, and that's Hamilton trying to hang on in the 24. You got Tony Draper there in the Century Sim Racing car as well. Keg Shube and Elias Seppinen have made their way past both of them. It's up to 5th and 6th places after starting on row number 5 for those two. Sorry, Peter.
So the Zebras march on then, Kashube and Seppinen cutting their way through the pack as we ride on the nose of Tim Perry for 3 Spires Motorsport in the Pro-Am category, challenging for that championship at the moment, trying to find a way through on the Mercedes of Tony Draper in front. Can't quite get it done there into the final corner. There is a dive bomb in there, but maybe not on lap 2, maybe not advisable.
Yeah, not advisable indeed as we go through. I did see Jonathan Walker and Nathan Lewis dropping down my order on my timing screen. And in fact, Nathan Lewis has taken a tour back to the pits, so goes from bad to worse for the BS competition driver. And he is going to be out of this race. But still, tremendous battling then in front. And that is Perry. There's Ben Gregory involved in there as well. You've got Tony Draper with that one as well, and a whole gaggle of cars behind. A couple of the cars behind SimSticker's car and a Luxim 24 car as well. So plenty of battling through this field here, Peter. Nobody's really settled down into a rhythm as yet from this pack. The leaders seem to be falling in line though.
Oscar Cooper's the man on the move as the top of the pro drivers at the moment. In second place, Butler top of the Pro-Ams. And you wonder, Paul, do you throw a big defence, or do you just try and just maintain your lap speed? And whoa, it's a big move there, and this is huge. Poor old Nathan Lewis. He's not had much luck in this championship.
No, he's certainly not. It was a bit ambitious from Jesse Jones, I think, to make a move down into the penultimate corner. Look at Cooper all over the back of Morgan Butler, is in the background. Kei Kashube is making moves on Adam Hedgecock. Elias Seppinen, as you can see, fastest lap of the race set. So some big movers coming on here, but Morgan Butler is under pressure. But that BMW is so good on the straights. What can the Porsche driver Cooper do here?
Well, I think the Cooper, you can see the Porsche really leaps out of the corners. You can see it really pulls a few meters there coming out of the corner, and now this is where the difference can be made. As Butler goes very defensive here on Cooper, and he's more than happy to hang it around the outside. That's pretty brave. Butler doesn't squeeze him. Butler gives him the room as well, just a car's width as well. That's really fair, but there's a switchback coming up. Is Cooper going to go for the move on the brakes now? Yes, he is, and I think Butler sees the writing on the wall and says, you know what, you're in the pro class, I'll gladly tuck in behind you. Oh, I say that, but then, I think, no, don't be ridiculous. I'm going to try and hang it around and wait for the cutback as well. Still side by side, and Butler's going to get this as they go up to the top end of the gearbox. And this is where the Porsche runs out of puff and the BMW surges through. Brilliant stuff from Morgan Butler. He was thinking not 1 or 2 corners ahead, 6 corners ahead there, Paul.
The problem for these two is that they're slowing each other down. That's bringing Van Rijn, Kashube, Seppen and Hedgecock et al. along. By the way, I could tell you that there's been an issue for Josh Thompson out there. He has dropped down the order all the way down to 50th place. A big issue for Josh in this race. He's had an off out there and has dropped down the order. Keke Kashube making the move on Lars Van Rijn, and Lars Van Rijn is saying, do you know what, I'm not going to fight that one too much because, well, you're a pro driver, I'm a pro-am. Speaking of pro and pro-am, again, Butler and Cooper into turn 3, a little bit of a squeeze there. Oh, and that's going to allow, look at this, Keke Kashube is going to come thundering through here. If he was on the water, there'd be plumes of spray coming up from behind his car, but he's up into the lead there. One little mistake there. I think that was just Butler trying to squeeze Cooper off the track. The problem is you can't do that. You've got to allow space.
Yeah, that was, Merry Christmas and Happy Birthday for Keke Kashube there, because, well, it was kind of unnecessary there. Both Morgan and Cooper running each other a little bit too hard there, and they ended up both losing out, and they're now into the clutches of some seriously fast drivers, and are going to pay the price for it quite handsomely as well, particularly Morgan Butler. But Seppinen on the move now. Now, the number 69 of Elias Seppinen sets the fastest lap of the race. He's in third spot right now, but only 1.3 seconds back from leader Keke Kashube. So, oh dear, sorry, my apologies, he'll be 2.2, sorry, do my maths correctly.
As the two BS competition drivers now trying to work their way through. As we said, we wanted to keep an eye on those two for the start of the race. Oh, that's an opportunistic move there from one of the Team Mad cars to go down the inside of a boosted car. I don't believe it's that Alex Nella. That is the battle for sort of 12th, 13th, 14th area. So yeah, that was Alex Nella that Adam Watson went down the inside of, and I don't think Alex appreciated that with the flash of the lights, but that's moved Adam Watson through and further up your field. And well, still Keke Kashube trying to make that breakaway, and it's sort of working his way as well as we keep looking at this battle for 10th place. Still Tony Draper not able to make any move, but looking further back, here's Alex Nella's point of view of that. He's got the number 29 of Elliot Harper in front of him, and that looks him 24 eSports outfit, and very striking livery. And then the very big boy in the rear view camera there, that is one of your Nomad Sim Racing cars. That's going to be Simon Underhill, who, again, I'm not going to say it. I was about to say something about Simon's performance so far, but I'm not saying it, Peter.
Why don't we say something about the grille of the BMW? It's like the Bugs Bunny body kit. It's like, look at that, just the teeth. There's just 2 teeth, and I'm like, what's up, Jack? I tell you what, though, mind you, the road car, although it doesn't look so good in the pictures, I saw it like a kind of sort of dark metallic green M3 the other day with the new model. It's a good looking car. Speaking of, well, tell you what, we'll come back to that. Ash Sutton has got up to 29th place from right at the very back of the pack, so outside of the top 50 and already up into the top 30 after 10 minutes of running. I'm
just looking behind this battle. There you go. It's those Lamborghinis, Alex Nella, and one of the Luxem 24 cars. So that's Elliot Harper And Simon Underhill looking to muscle his way through down the inside in the BMW. For Nomad Sim Racing, there's a car off. That's Evdoka. Michael Evdoka in the SimLab car. Pure Sim Lab. Oh, it's an absolute nightmare for him. He's trying to find a gap to come into. It's like trying to get onto Piccadilly Circus right now, but he's found his way, and he's going to get up to speed, but that's dropped him down a ton of positions there.
And don't think you're ever getting let in an AMG Mercedes either. They're thinking you can wait, no.
But it's that gravel again. He caught the gravel on the outside of 4.
Yeah, you see a lot of incidents at that corner, both in the 2 and 4 wheeled world. And fastest lap of the race is getting traded quite extensively here. It was Phil Dennis for a short period of time, who's got up to 15th from 30th on the grid. Great run from the American. Whoa, there's a little bit of a wobble there.
I think that was a push from Sedgwick.
Okay.
I do. Yeah, there's the lights flashing. I think that was a push from Jack.
We see that sort of caper in the Scottish Legends Championship on a regular basis, using the barging bars to their full effect. But Kashubi now at the front, laying down the hot pace as well.
Yeah, he's certainly on the pace here, and certainly showing what he can do out there. So yeah, Simon Underhill wasn't happy with that move, but into the braking zone of turn 1, you're on the limit there, aren't you? It's just the slightest of later braking from the car behind to just get into the back of the car in front, and before you know it, you push them out of the way of the track, and they get themselves, fortunately for Simon, able to carry on, because there's a lot of runoff at turn number 1.
Yeah, that's true. It could have been worse. It could have been a gravel trap, and it would have had a lot more of a penalty. But I'm sure there's been some colourful language in the Underhill cockpit after that one. But again, when you're racing this close in this depth of field, these little things can happen as well. Whoa, spin for one of the Team Mad cars. Billy Fletcher goes for a half twirl and biff. Oh dear.
Yeah, he collected the 777 there, which is Simon Nella. But yeah, it was JB Masida who had a spin as well. So he's had issues out there. We were looking at one of the boosted Virage cars out there. So we saw them out there on track, but they have actually teamed up with Virage to basically come together as an outfit to help work together and build the two teams up. So it's great to see Boosted and Virage coming together and really pushing forward in the world of sim racing to improve and to grow themselves.
Well, that collaboration in sim racing is just vital, that camaraderie too, because practicing it can be a bit of a grind, especially if you're doing it on your own, and having teammates to work with and to chat with as well can make a big difference in trying to find those steps in the setup. Now, Ash Sutton is this Billy Fletcher, a recovering Billy Fletcher? And
that's the number 8.
Oh, just a mistake for Ash Sutton there, and just turns around, and was it Billy Fletcher's teammate there?
Aaron Rose, yes.
Right, good spot.
Yeah, so the other Luxim 24 esports car who gets caught out by Ashley Sutton's mistake. As well, we carry on towards the end of the race. 6 minutes remaining, so it is Keik Shupe in the lead of this one. He is currently leading this race by around 3.5 seconds ahead of his teammate Elias Sepinen, with Oscar Koper in 3rd place. Your best Pro-Am driver is Morgan Butler in 4th place, with Tim Perry, the next best Pro-Am, in 5th, and Adam Hedgecock making it a trio in 6th place of Pro-Am drivers. Then your best Am is Ryan Hamilton. He's been able to hang on to some decent spots there in 7th place. With your next best Am driver, I'm having to go down my timing sheet here and to see Paul Webster in 24th, and then Andy Archer, the 3rd placed Am driver, in 26th. So Ryan Hamilton, as we mentioned, Peter, on for some big big points here as an AM driver as we look at Phil Dennis trying to carry on working his way past Tony Draper.
Yeah, Phil Dennis has played this very, very cleverly. I mean, it's been a superb meeting for the American driver, winning from pole in race 1 and just trying to minimise the risk here as well. But he's getting it pretty hard here from now is Draper, Tony Draper, yeah, who's had a pretty busy meeting, that's for sure. Sedgwick on the other side, oh God, 3 wide into turn 1, this always goes well. But they do get through, and yeah, Dennis playing really smart here. Almost, remember when on Mario Kart when you could have those like bananas spinning around and that sort of gave you a sort of protective force field? That's what Phil Dennis is doing. That's his Mario Kart skills coming in.
Certainly as well. He's still not past Draper. I think he's now clear of him, but Jack Sedgwick trying to go around the outside of Draper, and Draper is proving to be quite an astute defender out there, and he's trying to hang on to as many positions as possible. Is the Pro-Am driver. He's got Ashley Finch coming up behind him as well. He doesn't want to get swamped here and get sort of freight trained down the order to Draper, so he's slotted in behind Jack Sedgwick, so that's good to see. Harper and Gregory in front of them actually are currently swapping positions on our timing tower on the left hand side as well, so keep up to date with everything going on through the left and then the right, heading towards the end of the lap. And this is where, Draper, big moment there. I think he'll need a change of underpants after that one.
Yeah, that definitely a code brown, as they like to call it these days. Now, so an update on retirements. Looks like we've got retirements for Kevin Gilbranson, Jonathan Walker, Jesse Jones, and also Nathan Lewis and Simon Underhill as well, showing as in the pits. So yeah, not as much attrition actually as race 1, even with the reverse grid, Paul.
It's amazing how even without saying anything, I managed to give the commentator's curse to Simon Underhill. He was doing so well earlier on with Simon, but he's ended up down at the back of the field. Here's the battle for 10th. So Phil Dennis, big shoulder barge on Ben Gregory there. Jack Sedgwick is going to try and take an advantage of this, and if he can do it well, he can sneak ahead of Dennis and get up a position here. But Gregory will have felt that from, I believe that was Harper. Yes, Elliot Harper, who got into the side of Gregory.
Yeah, you could really see Jack Sedgwick there in the Ferrari 488 really struggling for straight line pace compared to the BMW of Dennis. It looked very much like Jack Sedgwick in that black Ferrari. It got the run on Dennis, but once that BMW gets the traction and gets going, it's so fast in a straight line as well, and Dennis using that to his full advantage there as well. So now up into the top 10, and a win and a top 10 for the first 2 races, going well for Phil Dennis, one of our championship contenders.
Certainly. We're going to have about 2 laps remaining in this because Kashube's just made it across the line as well. Harper heading to pit road, almost catching out the drivers behind him, as here we are on board. Then Jack Sedgwick heading to pit road as well, so he must have damage or a drive-through penalty. That could well be the case. I think it's damage actually to his car.
I'm not so sure, Paul. I think it might well be. Now, is it exceeding the incident points possibly?
Well, we could tell you that there is a drive-through penalty after 16 incident points. So
I think that's more likely.
Yeah, he's not stopped. It's a drive-through, as well as Elliot Harper as well. He's had a drive-through penalty. So it costs you big round here, doesn't it? Even though you do cut the inside of the final corner in the first corner.
Yeah, absolutely. For those watching who are maybe new to virtual motorsport or iRacing in particular, there is an incident point system which iRacing hands out automatically. So if you breach track limits, that's 1 incident point. If you have contact with the wall or tire barrier or whatever, that's 2. If you lose control, that's 2. And if you make contact with another driver, that is 4 incident points. So that's the most severe. And it doesn't, in a field as close as this, Paul, it doesn't take long for them to rack up, and that's clearly what's happened to Jack Sedgwick. So all that hard work down the drain.
Yeah, him and Elliot Harper, as I say, having to head onto pit road to serve those incident point-related drive-through penalties. Right, we're on to the final lap of the race here. Keiko Shube has a 3-second lead. Phil Dennis coming in, just casually coming in with a fastest lap towards the end of the race here. All the while, he's battling away with Lars Van Rijn. So Van Rijn, again, another good, solid point haul here if he can finish in the top 10, and he's got a big enough gap behind him to not worry about those. Ahead, you've got Ryan Hamilton, the top AM driver. He'll not want to block Dennis here. He'll want to just say, do you know what, you go through. I'm on for a big haul of points here as they head on down to turn 4. But to be fair to him, credit to the Lamborghini driver of the Nomad Sim Racing outfit, Ryan Hamilton, holding his position, and he's being defensive here as well. He knows that he's got points on the line. Contact between the two of them. No, and Dennis goes round. Does Hamilton? No, Hamilton's round as well. He's stuck in the middle of the track. Can everybody make their way through? Anyway, Keiko Shube, no, they can't. But Keiko Shube, I can tell you, is going to be coming through to the end of the race. And here he is across the line to take victory in race number 2 of the evening here. Elias Seppin and his teammate is in second place. And Oscar Cooper rounds out the top 3 as your top Pro-Am drivers, Morgan Butler and Tim Perry, finish in 4th and 5th place, and Adam Hedgecock 3rd in Pro-Am, 7th overall. And after all of that, after hanging on so long in a top point scoring position, Ryan Hamilton is down in 29th place, and he's going to be, I do believe, the 3rd best Pro-Am driver. He just needed to let Phil through. He didn't need to fight that.
I don't think he was fighting, to be quite honest with you, Paul. I think he was following his normal racing line, and I think Phil Dennis was getting far too close and personal, which is, to be honest, strange, because Phil had been so measured and giving so much distance and minimising the rest. But wait for David Baker. Here he comes. Bang! Ouch.
Nowhere for David to go there.
Not at all, no. No, I have to say, I think Hamilton was just running his line as he should do, and it was weird. Dennis was just all over him, and quite an odd situation there, Paul. But last lap does funny things to drivers from time to time.
Absolutely. Well, one man who didn't have funny things happen to is Keiko Shube, who takes victory here. Great run through from 10th place on the grid to finish in 1st place in the second race of the evening. We do have one more race of the evening coming up for you very shortly, so we will get you the spinning wheel up on screen. There you go, there's where it left off last time by.
Rachel Riley wasn't available either.
No, she wasn't. So Hugo Luis, who's a very capable person, can do this instead. And is it going to be 31 or is it going to be 29? Let's just give it a chance to stop.
Achoo.
I'm going to call that 31. So 31 positions. We had 2 big reverse grids here, so we'll be able to give you that standing. Yeah, that wheel's not moving anymore there, so 31 will be where it'll be. So we'll let you know. We'll let you know once we've gone through the final standings here as to who it will be. But it's Keiko Shube takes that win of Elias Seppinen with Oscar Cooper in 3rd place. Your top Pro-Ams, as I mentioned, is Morgan Butler and Tim Perry in 4th and 5th places. Adam Watson 6th ahead of the 3rd place Pro-Am driver of Adam Hedgecock in 7th place. Lars Van Rijn, Ashley Finch and Alex Nella round out your top 10. 11th for Ben Gregor with Tony Draper in 12th. Ross McFarlane, your current champion, in 13th place ahead of Mike Horder. Christian Rose and Max Wolf 15th and 16th ahead of Andy Shield and Aaron Rose. Paul Webster is your top AM driver then for Immortal in 19th place, with Billy Fetcher in 20th place. 21st is your 2nd place AM driver of Andy Archer. Then Pete Harrod in 22nd. David Baker, after that contact with Ryan Hamilton, ended up down in 23rd. Josh Thompson 24th ahead of Michael Avdoka. JB Masida 26th ahead of Jack Sedgwick, with Ryan Hamilton the 3rd placed AM driver. He was in ninth place, sorry, at the start of that last lap, down in 28th at the end. Adam Gladden, 29th, and Matthew Turnbull will find himself on the front row of the grid, with Chris van der Ness from Evo SR starting on pole position of our final race of the evening. Elliot Harper then, after his drive-through penalty, finishes 32nd ahead of Tom Stevens, Bradley Hulls, Chris Byram, Michael Blake, Matt Woodhouse, Nicholas Salaputis with a solid finish in 38th, Toby Ward in 39th, and Phil Dennis, again, another victim of the drive-through, down in 40th place. 41st then, Simon Field ahead of Ross Nicholson in 42nd, John Roberts 43rd, and Ashley Sutton, it's not been his day today, down in 44th with Lewis Archer, Brian Lyons, James Whitehouse, Simon Underhill, and Simon Neller 1 lap down. And the drivers who did not finish. Matt Byrne is the first of those who did not finish, with Jason Dilworth, Kenneth Goodbranson, Jonathan Walker, Jesse Jones, and Nathan Lewis rounding out your 55 cars on the grid. So we've got one more race coming up for you here today, Peter, and well, another big reverse grid. 31 places is the reverse grid. That is going to be, again, really clean opening lap. I was pleasantly surprised by that at the start of that race.
As was I. Yeah, I really was, because we saw, I mean, a bit of a pile up in race 1, and you think, oh dear, with a big reverse grid, this could, in theory, could be worse, but it wasn't. No, it really wasn't. And what I'm quite glad to see is that for Ryan Hamilton there, he's going to get a second go at this, because he did everything right. Just that last bit of the last lap, really unlucky, and I think he will start third for the race 3, so that will give him kind of a second bite of the cherry, and hopefully he can use that. I think he finished 28th, so he'll start fourth. My apologies, I'm so good at maths. I think that's a nice thing as well. Phil Dennis, I think he'll be kicking himself a little bit there. I think he'd done everything right. He'd avoided the trouble, he'd stayed away from it, and then all of a sudden he just thought, no, I'm just going to go full attack that last lap. It's just uncharacteristic there. Yeah,
it's almost a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other sort of move. Was that incident towards on that last lap between Hamilton and Phil Dennis? So yeah, I think both will look at that again and think, if I'd have done this differently, like if
should have listened to Uncle Paul.
Well, if I'm Ryan Hamilton and I'm an AM driver in that position, I'm in for some big points, and you've got one of the fastest drivers on the grid coming through, I'm not getting in his way. I'm just putting out the red carpet and saying, I'd rather lose one place than what's happened here, which is losing multiple places.
Well, there's the polite version of this is if, buts and maybes, but I think you know what the rude version of it is. But I think it's so difficult. I think what Ryan was doing there, in my view, we'd love to hear from him. Come in and chat to us on RaceSpot TeamSpeak. It just looked like he was following exactly the same line, but of course as the corner swoops, there's a right-hander and then a left, and he just looked like he was following. He said, I'm just going to stick to my line. And Dennis, I do think Dennis was just way too close, and no wonder Dennis was carrying more corner speed, because he's probably 2 seconds a lap faster. So every corner he's going to be carrying way more speed, and maybe we should have just anticipated a little bit more. But again, we're our chair is so high and comfy, isn't it? It really is.
It's so easy for us to talk about it here. I do want to say as well, whilst we're on, happy birthday to a certain Andrew Woodhouse in the chat.
Happy
here,
birthday, Woody.
One of our commentating colleagues here. So I hope he's had a good time.
We need to fit in at some point in the next race. We need to fit in an "oh bang," which is Andrew Woodhouse classic one-liner. There's a crash. Oh bang!
But one thing before we get into race 3, by the way, do not forget that currently at the moment on the 3M website for the sim gloves, there is a 20% discount off of their sim gloves. So make sure you do check out the 3M website. The link is in the description below, and get yourself some sim gloves, 20% off. and no need for a code either. You don't need to put in a special code or anything. It's there already for you. 20% off from one Yorkshireman and one Scotsman. We think that's a very good deal. So do get yourself a pair of gloves there to help you with your sim racing. I do have racing gloves myself, and I find that it helps out. As you mentioned earlier, Peter, on these sort of warmer days where it gets a bit hot, your hands do get a bit sweaty, and it just helps you keep a firm grip of the wheel.
It does, yeah. And also the thing is that when you see your computer running in iRacing, your computer does kick out a lot of heat as well, so the room gets warm as well, I always find. And of course with rain coming to iRacing, all of our computers are going to be running even hotter than before, aren't they?
Yeah, poor Hugo, who's going to have to try and cope with that. That's for sure. Hugo doing a fantastic job again, bringing us the pictures of what's going on. What I can tell you is that the drivers are currently in their warm-up session before the start of the final race of the evening here. And Hugo's even put the link to the thing, although that's not working, it appears. So it's all going a bit, poor thing. Well, you can see the link to 3M anyway in the description below, and that does take you to their website, where they've got many products on offer there for you, but the sim gloves are on special offer.
And while you're there, get a race suit as well. Get the full immersive experience. Get a race suit. I'm sure they can put your name on it as well. So you can get down to your... Now, hold on, Paul. Whoa. We need to see that again. That is a proper... For someone that doesn't drink, that is a proper beer drinker's pint glass there, filled with Ribena.
Yes, it is actually. Yes. That's from my old rugby playing days. Is that so? Yeah. But get yourself a race suit. Get yourself. If you're going karting or something like that, they make some excellent karting suits, by the way. So do check them out. So,
and you arrive at the karting track, your competitors will cack themselves. I remember once going to Daytona at Milton Keynes. It's a really long track, and it was the first time I'd done road tax 2-strokes. And me and my pal arrived there thinking it was, nice and easy arrive and drive, and these guys turned up with like proper suits and stuff, and we thought, we're done here. But it was good fun. It was good fun. But I'd have felt more comfortable in a 3M suit.
Yeah, absolutely, and or if you're like me, all the gear, no idea. That's what happens for myself. But let's have a look. We've got 5 minutes remaining before the start of the final race of the evening. So let's turn our attention to that and what we could be looking forward to here. We've had big 55-car grids. The racing is, on the whole, being clean. There have been one or two incidents. We're not going to try and hide away from that. There have been one or two incidents, but on the whole, it's not been as bad as we possibly think that it could have been. So definitely, it's been good going so far. Once again, you've got people like Kent Branter, Jesse Jones, Phil Dennis coming from the back half of the grid. They're going to be key. They're going to try and get their way through and up as many positions as possible. But you can't rush these things, or else you end up in instance, as we saw in race number 2.
Yeah, I think Phil Dennis will start on sort of the 7th or 8th row kind of direction.
He's down. He finished 40th, did Phil Dennis. In race 2.
God. So yeah, he really hurt. Okay, so yes, that's... Yeah, and to be honest, he was making good progress through and had only got to the sort of fringe of the top 10. So all of it just shows you just one tiny step over the line, and what was an amazing season-defining meeting goes to, oh my God, this is damage limitation all of a sudden. That's the tightrope that the guys at the top of the championship in World GT are walking on, Paul, I think, because it's not as if you're having to just worry about one other rival. You're having to worry about 5 or 6 of them who are all on in that points bubble, which is going to roar on for the whole season.
Absolutely. Fortunately for these drivers, they do get 2 drop scores in this championship. They don't get to drop the final round of the championship, so it makes it nice and easy for us in the commentary booth to be able to say who's champion when it comes to the end of the season. I made sure that they put that into the rules, because drop scores, I don't know about you, Peter, but drop scores are the bane of my life when it comes to a final round of the championship.
No, arithmetic's hard enough as it is without black magic being added in there as well. I'm cringing because in a couple of weeks' time I've got I have the immense privilege of calling the action of the Scottish Superbike Championship, which is brilliant battle between Callum Grieger and Sean Gilfillan. That's the first time they've been announced on RaceSpotTV. But I'm hoping that there's no drop scores, because if there is, oh my god, I'm gonna be making it up.
Do you know, before we get into this final race, I was once told by a rugby commentator, because I started off in rugby commentary, and I once got taught by a rugby commentator, if you're struggling to think of something, just make it up, because 90% of your audience don't know whether it's true or not. So that's what he said to me as a piece of advice when I was just getting used to being behind the microphone. So there you go. Don't always believe what commentators tell you is the is the moral of the story.
Well, we when I used to work in the Scotch whisky business, there was that I had this saying where Scotch whisky marketing, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that.
Like, the hills and rolling heather and the beer and nonsense.
Only the finest water that has been blessed by the priest of this church will go into our bottles. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, all that nonsense. Yeah.
Well, we have got one final race coming up for you here in the World GT Championship. I'm just having a look at my timing screen here. 54 cars on the grid at the moment with about a minute to go here. So somebody has dropped out of this final race of the evening. If you're having a bad evening and you've already written it off as a drop score, you actually might be better off not racing in a final race and potentially keeping yourself out of trouble for any potential stewards' reviews. So yeah, that might be a tactic of one driver out there, but drivers are set on the conditions. Now we are a little bit later on into the day, so in sim time is about 2:20 in the afternoon, and I can tell you the track temperature is actually 39 degrees, so about 3 degrees cooler than the last race here, Peter. So yeah, certainly a little bit kinder for those drivers out there, but still rather hot on the track.
Certainly balmy enough. That track surface is going to be really slick as well, and the lap times at the top of the field were about a second and a half slower in race 2 than what they were from race 1, so that's going to carry on again. So that gives you an impression of just how much the grip has dropped off with that high track temperature. As
in fact, it's going to drop off a little bit more because the clouds have just come over. But I can tell you, on pole position then for this final race of the evening, the Evo SR driver Chris van der Ness with Matt Turnbull for Pure Sims Esports, Adam Gladden and Ryan Hamilton, they'll be hoping for a good result on the second row of the grid, with Jack Sedgwick and JB Masida rounding out row number 3. We're going to fire through this grid here, so it's Evdoka and Thompson then, with Baker and Harrod on row number 5, Andy Archer and Billy Fletcher row 6, Webster and Rose with Shield and Wolf, Rose and Horder rounding out 18th place, McFarlane and Draper in 20th with Gregory, Nella, Finch and Van Ryn, Hedgecock and Watson, Perry, Butler, Oscar Copa and Elias Seppanen together then. And the race 2 winner, Keg Shube, 31st. Elliot Harper, 32nd. Stevens, Hulse, Byram, Blake with Woodhouse, Salaputis, Ward, Dennis, Field, Nicholson, Roberts, Sutton, Archer, Lyons, Whitehouse and Underhill. Nearly there. Nella and Bunn with Gulbranton and Walker. Jesse Jones and Nathan Lewis round out the back of your grid. So, drivers on the pace, third of a lap really is what this is, and it is Chris van der Ness for the Evo SR team, currently setting the standards. and setting the pace for when they go. And he's going to hold them actually quite a while here, and it's all bunching up behind. Now he goes, does Van der Ness. The green flag waves. Barney the flagman is happy that this race starts. In towards turn number 1, then they go. Van der Ness and Turnbull hold on to their positions. Hamilton's moved up a position. Jack Sedgwick trying to run around the outside of Gladden then as we go through the first turn. We've got issues for the back. Seppänen, yes, he's around. Track's still clear though, so we're staying green flag racing in towards turn number 3. Look at that, either side of Gladden then. That was Josh Thompson and also Jack Sedgwick, with JB Mesida involved in there as well as they head on through 3, down towards 4. Changing the lead there, Matt Turnbull to the head of your field there, Peter.
Good move there from Turnbull in the Lamborghini, that's for certain, but also that drive-through for Jack Sedgwick in race 2, actually not going to punish him that much because he's got a good grid spot here and fighting right up the front. But what can you say about Josh Thompson? He is really on the charge now as well in that Williams Esports BMW. So the magnificent Manxman, we could see him up the front again.
As the drivers work their way through, so I can tell you Elias Seppänen is down to 53rd out of 54, not being a good opening lap for him. He's going to have to try and do a bit of damage limitation. There was a Simsticker's car there a little bit out of shape, but able to carry on. Here's your leaders then. It's Turnbull, Van der Ness, Hamilton, Sedgwick, Mesida, Thompson, Evdoka, Gladden. Billy Fletcher heads to the pit lane, as does Kei Koshube. So what's happened to Koshube out there? Obviously getting repairs done.
Oh dear, that's not what we want to see. So Kei Koshube, it's not been an ideal meeting, although he won in race 2. It's been a tough all day so far for the powerboat racer. Oh dear, 2 minutes in and Turnbull. It's all happening.
What's happened to Turnbull? He's dropped down to 3rd place. He's down to 3rd. He's got Jack Sedgwick trying to work his way past him. So all of a sudden we've got a Pro-Am, Van der Ness in the lead. We've got an Am in Ryan Hamilton in that Lamborghini in 2nd place for Nomad Sim Racing.
Oh, it was Thompson.
Thompson, the last of the late breakers, it's safe to say, is Josh Thompson. He looks to the inside of Mesida. JB Mesida, though, not wanting to give up that place. Ryan Hamilton's looking for a lead here, as Mesida and Thompson still staying side by side here.
Yeah, that's amazing bravery there from Thompson, just hanging it right around the outside, trusting that Mesida wouldn't move across, which he didn't. Oh, really, Josh Thompson taking some big risks here early on, but they're paying off so far. He's up into 5th position now already and in the hunt for a win. Let's see what happened to Turnbull. I think he maybe just outbraked himself. Yep, that is common, should we say, at that corner?
It certainly is. It's so easily done as well to outbrake yourself. We've got a car crabbing, and that's Adam Hedgecock in that boosted Virage car. And there was another car in the background there, I believe it was Brian Lyons, who was having issues.
So we've had Spatchcock.
We've had issues then further back. Meanwhile, down the inside of Sedgwick, trying to make the move there is Turnbull, not happening. Paul Webster and Andy Archer swapping positions as well. I mean, look at that, 3 Am drivers, 10th, 11th and 12th place, battling away. So the top 3 in Am, well, I say top 3 because of Ryan Hamilton in 2nd place. He's currently holding up Jack Sedgwick and doing a very good job of it as well. That Ferrari just not suiting this track.
Oh, but Hamilton needs to play this one smart as well, because that's not smart. Oh, dearie me. Poor old Matthew Turnbull has just gone from bad to worse. He was trying to check out and got, I have to say, Paul, I think there was a little bit of encouragement to the rear of that Lamborghini. Whoa, as Dennis barges by.
Yeah, he's on a charge, is Dennis, I can tell you that as well. He's trying to recover from starting 40th. He's already up to 20 places, Phil Dennis. Up 20 positions so far in this one. But yeah, Matt Turnbull, as you say, maybe a little bit of help, a little bit of assistance in that one. So all these races, by the way, if you are new to the championship, well, I can tell you that these races, they do get reviewed by a team of stewards after the event. There's no live stewarding in the race, but they do have stewards look at the incidents that happen afterwards in the week to come. So you do end up with penalties. Jack Sedgwick, in the meantime, look at that decisive move around the outside, getting on the power earlier. That proved key there in that move against Ryan Hamilton.
Yeah, good stuff there from Jack Sedgwick. And Ryan Hamilton, I tell you what, he's holding his own here, but here goes Thompson's going to have a look, and Hamilton gives him the room, but then might get freight trained here by Evdoka. This is really fierce stuff, but Hamilton really punching above his weight, I have to say. For a driver in the AM class, he's running with not just the pros, the peak of the pro class in the form of guys like Josh Thompson and Michael Evdoka. But I tell you what, Paul, the stewards team, they're going to need a heck of a lot of tea and biscuits for their meeting this week. Well,
Adam Watson and Adam Gladden have got together out there. Gladden's out in the gravel trap. There he is in that Vulcan sim racing car. So the Lamborghini, and he's taking a tour back to the pit. So it's bye-bye for Gladden in race number 3. Not a good race for him out there as we go into the right-hander here. And that's Morgan Butler moving positions. So Morgan, where is he out there? Well, we'll have a look at what happened then. Here's Andy Shield. This has happened on the previous lap. 3 into 1 does not go. There was the boosted Farage car. And, there's a wipeout. One of the Pure Sims esports cars just absolutely wiped out. And then a Lamborghini coming in and more. And is that Nathan Lewis? I think it is Lewis who got involved in that one as well. So yeah, Nathan Lewis got caught up in all of that. It's come flying round, and all of a sudden there's cars in the middle of the road. I will say, however, you do get yellow flags. And what do yellow flags mean? Nathan Lewis actually punched his way past. That was Simon Underhill that moved out the way there. Then you come round this corner, and, where do you go?
He didn't, like you say, did he slow down? No. It's such a difficult one, Paul, I think, and this is one thing that I think we do see a lot more incidents of those type in the virtual world, because the yellow flags don't come out quick enough to give enough warning, but also they're not respected at all. And the thing is, if you slow down, you're just as likely to have an accident by someone rear-ending you. That's the only problem, I would say, is that it's a really difficult issue to solve as well. And that could have been a lot of contact avoided there, but really a pity. But that definitely Sutton got one at the front and one at the back there.
I do know that the stewards team do not take that lightly, by the way. If there's an incident in front and you just going flying through, they do not take it lightly. One person not taking it lightly at the front is Jack Sedgwick. He's going for the lead here on Chris Van Den Ness. Porsche, Ferrari and BMW, 3 marks there all together. We've got a Mercedes behind them in 4th place, and Van Den Ness, he's just getting mugged here. First of all by Jack Sedgwick, and now Josh Thompson, who's worked his way around him. And that Porsche, you mentioned it earlier, it just runs out of power. It runs out of top speed. It's good in the corners, but not necessarily good on the straights, and that's where that BMW has the advantage.
I tell you what the Porsche does do, though, is it drafts very well. Because it's a naturally very high revving, naturally aspirated engine, the other cars have got a bit more grunt down low with the torque, but the Porsche makes a lot of its power high up in the rev range, so in the draft at high revs you can keep up, so it is good there. So if you can keep touch on the straights in the draft, you can make up some good lap time in the Porsche. But the turbocharged Ferrari and indeed the turbocharged BMW going by there, but I think that's probably more to do with the World Championship credentials of the 2 drivers in the form of Jack Sedgwick and Josh Thompson. And with 10 minutes to go, Paul, I think we've got a bit of a blockbuster finish to come.
Yeah, we certainly do. Josh is not one to miss out on the opportunity to score some points and to score a win, that's for sure. He's a hungry driver, is Josh. Ross McFarlane, by the way, now your fastest lap out there on track. He's in 8th place at the moment, the Pure Sims esports driver, as they head on up to turn number 3. So at the moment it is Jack Sedgwick and Josh Thompson the front two, with Chris van der Ness hanging on to the back of them, although I don't know how much longer he will hang on to the back of them there. He's your top Pro-Am driver, is Chris. Michael Avdurka in 4th place. Then the second Pro-Am driver is JB Masida. Top Am driver is Ryan Hamilton, who's in 6th place ahead of Dr. David Baker. Andy Archer, 9th place in Am, and Paul Webster, 10th place in Am as well. And Max Wolf is the 3rd place Pro-Am driver in 11th place. So we've seen plenty of battles out there, and well, the good doctor we're on board with him has just been overtaken by Ross McFarlane.
Yeah, it's a good race so far from Ross McFarlane as Kai Kashube down the order, but fastest lap of the race, 129.355. Sepinen, who was back right down, he was last coming out of the first corner after getting turned around again. But I tell you, the driver I've got my eye on, Paul, number 98, Phil Dennis. What a damage limitation job this has been, into the top 15 from, what did you say, out of the top 40 he started?
He was 40th, yeah.
Gee whiz.
25 positions gained for Phil, so that's a heck of an achievement for him. As we go through turn number 1, Ryan Hamilton, then it's Ross McFarlane, and then David Baker all together, and they're getting dragged along by the Porsche of JB Masida in that Team Mad car. So it's Team Mad, it's Nomad Racing, it's Pure Sims Esports, and it's the Craig Setup Shop car, and there goes McFarlane to the inside, your current champion. Nicely done in turn 3, and David Baker's trying to follow him through.
Yeah, David Baker, of course, very, very unlucky in race 2, getting caught up in that late incident as well with nowhere to go, but recovering well here. Now he's having a big look up the inside of Hamilton, and he's going to get the move sealed up. Yes. I tell you what, Paul, I think Ryan Hamilton is he's taken on board that little incident race 2, should we say? Yeah,
certainly. Maybe just had the broadcast on, heard those words of wisdom and thought, do you know what? Let's get myself some good points here, because he is certainly on for some good ones here.
That man in the flat cap is wise.
Well, the front two, they've just waltzed away now from Chris van der Ness. I was hoping that he could maybe hang on to the slipstream for a little bit longer, Chris, but he's actually fallen back into the reaches of Michael Avdurka. But Josh Thompson all over the rear of Jack Sedgwick. He's getting a good view of the diffuser of that Ferrari 488 in front of him as they go out of turn number 1. But they see in the background Chris van der Ness and Michael Avdurka, Porsche versus Mercedes, and I feel that the Mercedes will make a move, and in fact you can see it in the background there, looking to make a move, and up to 3rd place for Michael Avdurka then. He's rather a quiet evening, hasn't he, Michael, out there, as there's Ross McFarlane making the move into 5th, although JB Masida, a tougher character to get past.
Yeah, Masida trying to use the drive of the Porsche off the corner to try and get a little bit of boogie and try and get the position back again. He's almost done it, but McFarlane remains in the inside line, and this is where the Lamborghini comes into its own. It's the best car on the grid for mid-corner speed. It's so balanced, it's so pure, but Masida's going to try stuff it back up the inside again. McFarlane's going to go for the karting line on the berm around the outside, and Lamborghini just too good in the corners there as Kai Kashube puts in another quick lap, and but it's kind of all to not really much avail. Paul is too far down the order to make an impression. He's down at the moment 44th place.
You were saying about it being so pure is that car. Well, it's rather ironic since it's a Pure Sims driver who's racing that Lamborghini. So as we go across the line then, David Baker, 7th place we're on board with. He's got Masida in front of him. Behind is Ryan Hamilton and Andy Archer, 2 Am drivers. They're duking it out for that's 8th and 9th places as well. But here's Max Wolf. We've not, again, another driver we've not really spoken much about this race. Finds himself in that pack there. He's got Phil Dennis in front of him, who's now gained 28 places. He's got Tony Draper right behind looking to make the move, and he's having to go defensive on the RSR by G Performance car, and it's Oscar Koper trying to make a move as Aaron Rose is trying to follow through in the Sim 24 Esports car.
update on our race 1 winner and championship contender Phil Dennis. He's up to 11th now as well, so a huge drive. But picking up again on Max Wolf, Paul, this is why he's got a promotion from the AM class to the Pro-Am class, because he just clocks up these finishes and just knows how to gather the points and maximise his opportunities. And yeah, he's quite some driver as the young Dutchman.
Cooper and Draper side by side. I feel that Draper's going to lose out on that battle. And again, that Mercedes, it doesn't seem to hold its back end through the exit of that corner. And now here comes one of the Pure Sims drivers, Matt Turnbull, who's trying to do a bit of a recovery drive here. He's coming up behind, and Aaron Rose behind them as well. So a good little gaggle of cars here, down 14th through to 17th. Look at the two leaders. They're together here, Peter. I think Josh is starting to think, I want to make some moves forward.
I thought he maybe would have a look there in Josh Thompson there, but deciding not to go. I wonder if he's maybe saving it for the last lap, possibly, because it's very easy to be drafted back again. As mistake for Gregory, and boff. Oh dear. That
was one of the Craig setup shop cars who got into him, the Porsche. Didn't quite catch the number of the car, but yeah, that's a disaster for Ben Gregory, who's had a pretty solid round this round as Ben. But these two, now they are technically teammates, even though they're not out of the same team, if that makes any sense.
Out the same awning with that? I remember going to Rally Portugal in 2011, and the M Sport awning, you've got about that in those days. That was when a privateer could afford to run a rally car in World Championship, and it was there must have been about 7 different liveries, all under the M Sport tent.
Well, we're seeing some tremendous battling out there. 3.5 minutes remaining here. So you've got that battle for the lead on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you've got the battle for 14th through to 17th at the moment. And they're still keeping together. Number 8 of Aaron Rose in 17th, trying to work forward. So 2 is the BMW behind him as well. The 83 car. I do believe that's actually a lap down, is that 83 car? Yes, it is. Tim Perry's down in 43rd in the 83. So again, not a great race for Tim Perry for the 3 Spires Motorsport outfit as we go along up the hill towards turn number 3, onto the brakes. Nobody making some moves here for the time being. And do you get the feeling here, looking at that battle on the left for the race lead, that Josh Thompson is just waiting and biding his time?
100%, yeah. I think he's saving the move to the last lap. I think he maybe could have made a dive on the brakes there going into turn 3 a lap or 2 ago, but I think Josh Thompson's playing this one clever. It's hard to tell. They're so evenly matched. I mean, maybe the Ferrari of Jack Sedgwick is a little bit better through the twisty stuff in the second half of the circuit, but it's very marginal as well. And I think Josh Thompson's maybe just doing his rehearsals in his head right now, thinking, okay, can't get him there, but I could get him here, and it will be 2 to go. So let's see, Paul, is he going to save it for the last lap, or is he going to spring a surprise? He's got a good run here.
He certainly does. We've got battling on the right hand side of your screen as well into the final corner. And that's got to be change of positions further down. Max Wolf and Paul Webster swapping positions, and Webster's got to be careful because he's got one of the RSR by G Performance cars into turn 1, and round he goes. That's Max Wolf, and the 30 cars being collected in all of that as well. Oscar Cooper involved in that.
Oh dear, oh me, that was a bit erratic, shall we say, from Oscar
Ambitious.
Cooper.
I think ambitious is the word there.
Yeah, it's an odd one, that. But anyway, back to our... I think the stewards might take a closer look at that one, I'll be frank.
I think the stewards will be glad that they've got all week to have a look at these incidents, that's for sure.
We've got an excellent race apparel and racewear sponsor in the form of 3M, a brilliant sim racing model sponsor in the form of Simortal, but we need a tea and biscuit sponsor for the stewards.
I wonder if Foxes will provide a packet of golden creams or something like that for the stewards here. But
and some Yorkshire tea.
Oh, absolutely. But We've got one more lap of the race to go here. There's 30 seconds remaining, so this will be the start of the final lap. And the front two are absolutely neck and neck. Josh Thompson, you feel, has got the faster top speed, but Jack Sedgwick can really wheel that Ferrari around this track in that Inex liveried car. Up through turn number 2 they will go. I have a feeling that Sedgwick will maybe defend into turn 3. No, he's not, and Josh Thompson is making the move. Sedgwick can carry the speed, get on the power earlier out of the corner there with that wide line, and that is very, very good driving there. You say it right there, smart there.
Smart with a sprinkling of gutsy because he left the door. That's the thing, is that Jack Sedgwick was so confident in his speed there that he left the door wide open for Josh Thompson, but he had a plan. He knew he was going to go and kind of on the motocross berm or the karting line around the outside and really using the corner speed of his Ferrari to his advantage as well. Really impressive there, and it's going to be hard work now, Paul, for Josh Thompson to get the move done here. Amazing stuff from Sedgwick.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a lunge into the final corner, you feel, for Josh Thompson, the Manxman. I don't think he's going to quite do it here. So into the final 2 corners, look at how close he's getting to Sedgwick. He's going to run it out wide, try and get the run at the final corner, sprint to the line, but it's going to be Jack Sedgwick who will see the checkered flag and take the race 3 win here in the World GT Championship. Josh Thompson, 2nd place, 3rd place for Michael Evdoka, and a brilliant 4th place for Chris Van Der Ness, who started on pole position to take the Pro-Am win. Your Am winner, maybe you should have had it in race 1, is Ryan Hamilton for Nomad Sim Racing. He finishes in 10th place overall, so he gets that good result here in the final race of the evening. More drivers coming across the line. We've got battling between Mike Horder and Lewis Archer. There's also Kei Kashube. The recovering Kei Kashube has made it past Ben Gregory, and also Adam Hedgecock to make it into 38. He'll be wishing to write off this final race, will Kei?
Yeah, no, and what will... I don't know, it must be so frustrating just setting purple lap times, just smashing the best lap of the race, lap after lap, and really to no reward at all. Kei Kashube, once again, very, very fast. But yeah, like you say, Paul, it's not really had the rub of the green tonight.
Certainly not, as the final few drivers come across the line to finish this race. So that is going to be the end of the 3rd and final race of the evening here. And well, what a drive it was from Jack Sedgwick to get to the top of the standings here. Then it is by 0.02 of a second over his teammate Josh Thompson in 2nd place, with Michael Evdoka for Pure Sim SimLab in 3rd place. As I mentioned, the top Pro-Am, Chris Van Der Ness for Evo SR, started on pole position and was able to hold on to 4th place by a 1/10 of a second over Ross McFarlane in 5th. JB Maceda was the 2nd best Pro-Am driver in 6th ahead of David Baker. Phil Dennis finished a fantastic 8th place considering he started in 40th place. Ashler Finch 9th, and your top Am driver Ryan Hamilton for Nomad Sim Racing in 10th place. 11th is the 2nd placed Am driver Andy Archer for Century Sim Esports. Matt Turnbull 12th ahead of Paul Webster, your 3rd placed Am driver in 13th. And then your 3rd placed Pro-Am driver your 3rd place Pro-Am driver Tony Draper for Century Sim Esports in 14th. Aaron Rose, Alex Neller, Elliot Harper, Morgan Butler, Bradley Hulse and Chris Byram round out your top 20. Max Wolf 21st ahead of Billy Fletcher, with Christian Rose 23rd, Lance Van Rijn, Oscar Coper, Simon Field 24th, 5th and 26th, with Michael Blake, Tom Stevens, Toby Ward and Simon Underhill rounding out the top 30. Pete Harrod, he'll want to write off this week, with Mike Horder in 32nd, Lewis Archer, James Whitehouse, John Roberts 33rd to 35th, with Mark Woodhouse, Kei Kashube, who ends up being classified as 37th in the end, ahead of Simon Neller, Adam Hedgecock and Brian Loyens. Nicholas Salaputis ahead of Ben Gregory, who was the last driver on the lead lap. Tim Perry then 1 lap down with Adam Watson. Ross Nicholson 2 laps down, and the rest of them did not finish. Jonathan Walker, Andy Shield, Kenneth Goldbranson, Elias Sepinen, Jesse Jones down in 50th. And the final 3, Adam Gladden, Nathan Lewis and Ash Sutton, all did not finish that race. Well, Peter, I think with that final race, it got a little bit messy. I think it's safe to say in the mid-pack. When you had incidents out there were certain drivers who weren't slowing down for incidents in front of them. It got a little bit messy there, but let's not let that take away from the brilliant racing up at the front of the field. Jack Sedgwick and Josh Thompson gave us a display of how to attack and defend.
Absolutely extraordinary performance from Jack Sedgwick to have somebody of Josh Thompson's calibre on your back bumper virtually for most of the race there, and to have the guts and the faith in your own ability to leave the door wide open at turn 3, allowing Josh Thompson could have been, and also you have to give Josh Thompson credit because he could have just let the brake off and blocked past him, but he didn't. They raced really fair and really hard, and Jack Sedgwick took a big risk by leaving that door wide open and trying to keep the speed rather than going for of course the BMW will be more of a kind of like a riding a superbike. It's brake hard into the corner, get it turned and then back on the power again. Whereas if you're on a 600cc bike, you would carry more corner speed. That's the Ferrari way in GT3. You've got to use the corner speed, and he used that really well. And really amazing racecraft. These guys at the top of their game, and it's amazing when you watch top line sim racing drivers at that level. It's amazing the lack of mistakes they make under the heat. That's the bit that always catches my imagination, is just how they can metronomically hit their marks all the time. Very impressive to watch.
Absolutely, it's tremendous to see that from those drivers, but you would expect that of drivers of that calibre to be able to do that lap after lap, that constant top speed, always on the limit there, lap after lap. You would expect it of those drivers. I think what's happening here with this series is a few drivers are getting a little bit desperate early on. I will say, early on with it in this championship, there's plenty of championship to go here. A few drivers are trying to make their way through the grid a bit too quickly and not taking into account the different skill levels that are out there on track. There's a reason why we've got the 3 classification of driver of Pro-Am and Am. It's to show in the race that you maybe got to give that little bit more space if you're a pro driver coming up to an Am driver in the race than say if you were racing 2 pros together.
That is going to be the key to who wins the championship, I believe. I think there's so many drivers, Josh Thompson, Jack Sedgwick, Kai Kashubi, Phil Dennis, and David Baker, and many more who can qualify in pole and win race 1. In fact, you could probably go into double figures of drivers who could just pull it out, fast and lead from the front and win. But it's what happens in race 2 and race 3. I think you're absolutely right. How you manage the traffic of the Pro-Am and the Am drivers, and indeed your fellow pros as well. But I think that's going to be the key to this championship. And to see what Phil Dennis was making his way through the field, he finished 8th. That's a big drive from 40th on the grid.
But that's how you do it. That is how you do it there. We have got time for one interview. So, Peter, why don't you take it away with one of your amateur drivers from the grid, Bradley Hulse.
Bradley Hulse, welcome to the RaceSpotTV commentary box. Quite an eventful evening for you. Tell us about it.
Yeah, race 1 and 2 were a bit mixed. I'd both lap 1 incidents in both races, so just trying to survive. Kept in it, just putting laps in and tried to get a better start for the next race, and it all pieced together in race 3, just keeping on back of the Pro-Ams and just about getting away with P19.
Well, getting up into the top portion of the field there, Bradley, which is always good. I mean, how are you finding the Porsche 911 GT3R? Of course, a relatively new addition to the service. It's quite different to the other GT3 cars that are available, but how have you been getting on with the Porsche?
To be fair, it's not been too bad overall. In the high-speed corners like at Silverstone, the back end gets really light, but under acceleration it seems to be quite good, and through the slow to mid-speed corners it's generally alright, so I can't complain.
And finally, of course, I think since last time we spoke, Bradley, you've switched teams. Year One Racing now, certainly the most colourful car on track. Have they managed to get a pair of custom flip-flops for you yet?
Not just yet. I have got a shirt on the way, but I haven't got any flip-flops just yet. I'll have to PM Boss and try and get some sorted for next round.
Absolutely. You get some Year One custom-made flip-flops and then some matching 3M gloves as well.
I'll have to get used to that 20% discount.
Oh, it's good, isn't it? Discount. That's like one of my favourite words in the dictionary.
Don't we all, as a Yorkshireman?
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Bradley, thanks so much for coming to have a chat with us, and all the best for the next round.
Cheers, fellas.
Another man, Paul, who likes a deal. I like it.
Well, he's from South Yorkshire, so he's enough of a Yorkshireman, so absolutely he's going to love a deal. But let's look forward then to next week. I'm trying to bring up my calendar here. Hopefully Hugo's listening to me and realising that my panic will mean that he's going to bring up the calendar up on screen for us. There we go. We're going to be at the Hockenheim next time out, and that one, I think that should be a bit more open, Hockenheim, shouldn't it? Because it's a bit more of a wider track. We've got long straights, we've got quite technical sections as well around there. It's a good mix of a circuit, isn't it?
I think it's a superb circuit. It's great fun to drive, and there is loads of overtaking opportunities. Turn one, then into the hairpin at the bottom of the back straight, going into the stadium. There is really a lot of overtaking opportunities. So I think Hockenheim could be the cracker of the season and feature race event. Can't wait, and only 7 days to wait.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 40-minute races with a mandatory pit stop in each one of those, and an inverted grid for race number 2 is certainly one that we are going to look forward to. But, well, it's been a tremendous race as always. Peter, thank you very much as always to join us on commentary here today, especially after your weekend of endeavours for Radio Show Limited on the Le Mans coverage. So well done on that, and we'll see you again next week. And for myself, Paul Smith, also Hugo Lewis behind the scenes, pushing all the buttons. It's goodbye from us here on RaceSpotTV with the World GT coverage powered by 3M. Don't forget, 20% off their sim gloves on offer right now. Check out the link in the description below for details on that on their website. But from everybody here at RaceSpotTV, it's goodbye.